What's up, everybody? It's M. Sal. We're back with another book review. Today, the book we are reviewing is Life and Death by Russell Simmons. This is the second hip-hop book I ever got. So, when I got this as my second book, I wasn't aware that there were other hip-hop books. So, I read this book probably like 10 times. I actually just finished reading it again, and it gets better every time. Russell Simmons, probably the most famous figure in hip-hop, maybe of all time, like not including rappers, but like moguls, business-wise, probably the most famous, most significant figure of all time. This guy, there wouldn't be a DMX, there wouldn't be a Jay-Z, there wouldn't be so many rappers, even today, without Russell Simmons. Russell Simmons comes from Hollis, Queens. He grew up very much how a lot of rappers grow up, with in gang culture, selling drugs, violence. But he rose above all that. And if you see where he's at now, completely different, 360. Now he's into yoga, he's a vegan, works mainly with charities, just working on bettering himself, so you gotta respect that. But yeah, so he grew up, when he moved to Hollis, Queens, it was more of like a suburb than a ghetto. I think he said there was one last white family on the block. As soon as him and his family moved in, gone. They were out. It was an all black and Hispanic neighborhood. And yeah, he grew up, he was selling weed. He was in a gang called, I think it was the Seven Immortals. And he didn't kill anybody. He said the worst they would do was like beat someone up, the occasional baseball bat, which, to me, a white kid from the burbs, that's still like, ooh, beating people up with baseball bats, that's not good compared to anything. I guess compared to what a lot of gangs do now, it's pretty cookie cutter. But yeah, he said a defining moment in his youth was when some guy, I don't know if he jumped him or robbed him, but some guy wronged him, and him and his gang caught him on the block, and they handed Russell a gun and said, "Do him." So Russell aims the gun at him. The guy finally breaks free out of the group, starts hopping over a fence. Boom! Russell Simmons fires a shot at him, right over his head. If that bullet hit that kid, there would be no Def Jam. There would be no Russell Simmons. He'd be in jail for life. So that was a definitive moment. He knew from then on, he was like, I'm destined for something. And of course he was. He started promoting parties when he went to City College. I think City College was in Harlem. He went to City College, started promoting parties, dropped out his last year of college, focused on promoting parties, lost all of his money in one big party that failed, and his mom gave him a loan of $2,000, which later became millions in Def Jam. His first artist, Curtis Blow, legendary, successful. A key moment was when Russell Simmons hooked Curtis Blow up with Grandmaster Flash. He brought the Bronx party to the Queens party, mixed them. It was legendary. But, it got really rough outside those concerts, so they had to stop doing it. Later, his little brother, Joey, you might know him as Rev Run of Run DMC. He became Curtis Blow's DJ, even wrote some rhymes for Curtis. Faster than the sound of a speeding gun is my disco son, DJ Run. And yeah, the rest is history. Russell Simmons, Rev Run says, hey, I got my two guys. First it was DMC. Jam Master Jay wasn't in the picture yet, but later on they brought in Jam Master Jay. They formed Run DMC, Russell's first group. He was promoting them like crazy. They had some hit songs. Then at a party, I think it was Jazzy J, he introduced Russell to this white kid, this white punk rock kid named Rick Rubin, who had his own company called Def Jam. They released a record, and they connected Russell's business with Rick's music history. They formed Def Jam, and that was really history. I think their first act was the Beastie Boys, which, License to Ill, might be the most successful Def Jam album of all time. I'm sure someone's passed it by now, but that was really, for the longest time, their most successful record. Then they had LL Cool J, which I think was King Ad Rock from the Beastie Boys found, because Rick Rubin had tons of mixtapes from aspiring artists in his dorm room. Def Jam was just in Rick Rubin's dorm room in NYU. And Ad Rock finds the mixtape of LL Cool J, gives it to him. It's like, whoa, this kid's fire. So that's how LL Cool J came into the picture. Signed acts like P.E., Public Enemy, Slick Rick, and, you know, they just had a fire lineup. You can argue they were the golden era. You had other guys. You had, like, Marley Marl and his crew, the Juice Crew. You had Rakim. But a lot of the golden era artists were Def Jam artists. And it really was a golden era. Their music was inspiring, fire, and is lasting the test of time. He had some failed ventures, probably a lot of famous ones, actually. He was supposed to sign Will Smith. Will Smith's actually the only guy who didn't screw Russell Simmons over. He gave Russell Simmons what he was due and then left and did The Fresh Prince of Bel-Air, which Russell Simmons was kind of hinting at a similar show that he wanted for Will Smith. He knew from the beginning Will Smith was a star. And he had failed movie ventures. He was supposed to be a big part of Boys in the Hood, but he kind of got screwed over with that one. He got screwed over with The Nutty Professor, which was his idea. It was his idea to recreate The Nutty Professor. Then Eddie Murphy was like, what if Clump was fat? And I think the movie was originally supposed to be for Martin Lawrence, but Eddie Murphy got a hold of it. Russell Simmons was a producer on it. I'm really going off on this book. I really love this book. Russell Simmons was producing it. The other producer didn't like how much credit Russell Simmons was getting, so kind of phased him out. So he barely got any money for Nutty Professor, even though it was pretty much his idea. By Nutty Professor 2, he sold his rights, so wasn't even a part of it. Yeah, and he had some of his own movies. He had Crush Groove. He had Tougher Than Leather, The Addiction. If you watch them, they're all fairly good movies. Crush Groove is a hip-hop classic, but it's actually the story of Russell Simmons' life, faintly. But, yeah, all good movies. Def Jam really came together in the 90s, too. They had guys like Redman, Method Man. I think they had Foxy Brown. Big time, they had Rockefeller Records. They signed Rockefeller Records. And, you know, if you haven't heard of Rockefeller Records, you got to stop living under a rock. Jay-Z, Damon Dash. And he signed the Rough Riders, DMX and his crew. He's had a lot of famous acts. And now Def Jam and Rock Nation probably have the best lineup out of any hip-hop labels around. So, you know, they're still going strong. And yeah, what's more to say about this book? At the end, he gives his top 5 business advices. He gives his top 5 business advices. He talks about getting into yoga, becoming a vegan. He was actually, I don't want to say he was a drug addict in his youth, but he was getting high. He would try anything. Him and his boys were like, the only thing we're not going to do is heroin. And they felt good about that. So like, yeah, we'll do anything else. He was really into angel dust. And the thing about angel dust was you smoke it. If you get a little crazy and a cop catches you, they send you to the hospital, inject you with something to like counteract the angel dust, but it completely fries your brain. Like you totally like become like dead and zoned out, and it's not good. They actually met Slick Rick when they wanted to sign him. He already had, I think, The Show and Lottie Dottie out. But they went to the mental hospital to sign Slick Rick, who was just zoned out of it. And Russell knew, like, this guy's not crazy. He's just, he just had a bad experience with angel dust. So, yeah, they signed Slick Rick out of the mental hospital, which, you know, no disrespect to Slick Rick, one of the greatest of all time, one of the best storytellers of all time, one of the funniest rappers of all time. No one's as good as Slick Rick in his own right. But yeah, let me see. This is a long video. I got to see if there's anything else I want to talk to you guys about. Oh yeah, Fat Farm. He lost like $10 million making Fat Farm, but then later became a successful business. He says it takes like 5 years for any business to really grow. And I guess that's true. As a rapper, I kind of feel that. But yeah, Fat Farm, Donald Trump was a big influencer for him. He was the guy who was like, he's like, name it after yourself. If your business fails, your name is what will keep you alive. So that's what Trump did. When Trump opened Trump Towers, he wanted to call it Tiffany Tower. And his dad was like, no. When you change your name to Tiffany, then you call it Tiffany Tower. So Donald Trump was really always a nice guy to him, even though he gets a lot of flack in the media now. I respect Donald Trump business-wise. He says some very out-of-pocket stuff in the media, but you can't judge everyone. You think he's the same as he is with the media? He's a smart guy. There's a reason he was president. There's a reason he's a successful businessman. You know, so I support Donald Trump. Don't want him to be president again. Hell no. But I support Donald Trump in other aspects. Yeah, married his former wife, Kamora Lee, had a beautiful baby daughter, Ming Lee. I wonder how old she is now. I wonder if she's around my age. I was born in 95. She's probably born around, maybe a little later, probably around my age. Oh, which is crazy to think. I'm looking at the pictures in his book. He has a picture with Clive Davis, L.A. Reid, and P. Diddy. He helped form P. Diddy. He was a big influencer for P. Diddy in the early days when he was Puff. One day they had a bet. They were on the Stairmaster. Puff says, if I stay on the Stairmaster longer than you, you pay to get my car refixed. But if you win, I'll give you $500. And Russell Simmons is like a master of the Stairmaster. And P. Diddy, I don't know how much he works out, but they're sweating bullets. P. Diddy's just going, yeah, what? And you know he's like tired as hell, but his mental focus is like helping him go. Like, it's all mental. He ended up winning the bet because Russell Simmons didn't want to bust his legs out. Let me see what else I can talk about. It's probably my longest book review video yet. Def Comedy Jam. At a time when Def Jam was getting fucked by Sony, Def Comedy Jam really saved them, gave them a lot of money, and they had famous acts like the Kings of Comedy. They were all, except they had George Lopez. George Lopez wasn't in Def Comedy Jam. Like Bernie Mac, I might say his name wrong, D.L. Huey, Martin Lawrence hosted, Chris Tucker, Chris Rock was in some episodes. Legendary. Then it was legendary until it wasn't, because then he kind of got phased out, and like he says, like, cool people stop watching, and he kind of had a whack audience. That's when he knew he had to stop, because like some whack people would come up to him and be like, I love Def Comedy Jam. And he's like, it's not the same as it was. You don't know nothing. But yeah, let's see what else I could talk about. Oh yeah, he signed Warren G in the peak of the East Coast West Coast beef, and he always thought that Suge Knight wasn't happy about that, but he never gave him any problems. They always helped each other out, like on the Above the Rim soundtrack, which I think that's where his hit song Regulate was. Yeah, that's where his hit song Regulate was top single. Became probably the best or the most successful hip-hop single of Def Jam's history. Regulate by Warren G, featuring Nate Dogg. Classic song. Yeah, and then in the East Coast West Coast beef, Russell Simmons was like, there is no East Coast West Coast beef. That was started by Vibe magazine, which I'm really pissed about, because Russell Simmons started Vibe magazine, then left because they didn't know what the hell they were talking about. They had no... It was a bunch of gay guys, literally, like, it was a bunch of gay guys, and they didn't know anything about hip-hop. They were like, yeah, Blondie and Madonna, they're hip-hop. And then Russell Simmons was like, I'm out. You guys don't know shit. And he started Vibe magazine with Quincy Jones. And I forget who like funded Vibe, but whoever funded Vibe wanted these particular people who didn't know shit. They wanted to do it without those people. So Russell Simmons was in. Then as fast as he was in, he was out. Wanted nothing to do with Vibe magazine. And they barely gave him any mention, like, for his Def Jam label, their first few years. But then he actually set up. He might be the reason the East Coast West Coast feud diffused. Russell Simmons. Yeah, Russell Simmons. Because he got Minister Louis Farrakhan to host an event at his house where they had like East Coast guys, West Coast guys. He gave a sermon, talked about peace and love, and then they all shook hands afterwards and they just hung out, ate, talked, kicked it. And that was a big part of ending the East Coast West Coast beef. So just to say how legendary Russell Simmons is, that's how legendary he was. He talks about leaving Sony for Polygram, which saved his business. Polygram really saved Def Jam. There wouldn't really be a Def Jam without Polygram. They really stepped up for him. Yeah, he's got pictures in here with Martin Lawrence, with his mom, beautiful woman. Ad Rock, models. He was really into models. He loved models. He said he went from like hood rats to punk girls to models. And he really got his weight in check and his health in check. He became really healthy. Got pictures in here with DJ Jazzy Jeff and Fresh Prince signing people. Run DMC. Robert Rocky Ford, Curtis Blow. He's got one picture in here with guys like Grandmaster Caz, Curtis Blow, Grandmaster Flash, DJ Hollywood, who he gives a lot of credit to for starting the scene, starting the show scene. And yeah, Rush Management. And yeah, I guess that's really it. That's the gist of the book. This book is a 10 out of 10. If you are a hip-hop head, this is a must-have book. Life and Death by Russell Simmons. Sex, Drugs, Money, and God. All explained in this book, plus more. Very educational. If you have dreams of being a rapper, if you have dreams of being a hip-hop mogul, this is your Bible. This talks about everything you will need to know and experiences that you might go through or that you dream of going through. So if you're a hip-hop head, if you want to be a hip-hop mogul, this is a must-have book. Life and Death by Russell Simmons, 10 out of 10. I'm M. Sal. Peace.